Morning, sixth graders. This is Wednesday, so it's our first chapter's Wednesday. It is snowy outside, and it's only October 21st, which is bizarre. Although I really think it'll be melted by the end of today. I think it's going to be sunny, and if it just hits like high 30s, it'll melt. So anyway, fear not, winter is not here, I don't think. Today I'm going to be reading from I Am a SEAL Team 6 Warrior by Howard Wasden. This is Howard Wasden right here. This is the book. He did write it with someone else. He's not a natural author, so he had to get help from a person who is a true writer. Anyway, really good book. So I'm going to read today the first few pages. And this is nonfiction, so this is true. This is his story, and actually, he's taken some heat from people because sometimes people think there's a code where you don't talk about your experiences in the Navy SEALs or the Green Berets or the Army Rangers. There's a code that you just leave that and you never talk about it because it's elite status stuff. So he wanted to tell a story, and so he's gotten a little bit of heat for sharing stuff that should have been classified, but it's kind of hard to put down. And his story is an interesting one. His story is pretty familiar. He didn't have the best childhood, but this gave him focus. So here we go. Reach out and touch someone, Chapter 1. When the U.S. Navy sends their elite, they send the SEALs. When the SEALs send their elite, they send SEAL Team 6. It's the Navy's equivalent to the Army's Delta Force. Its job is to fight terrorism and armed rebellion, often secretly. I was a sniper for SEAL Team 6. This is the first time a SEAL Team 6 sniper's story has been told. My story. So that's what I was talking about, is they usually don't share this stuff. And just to give everyone a fair warning, this is real, and it is war. So I'm going to actually reference some stuff that is, military. It's not bloody or violent, but there are guns in here because we are talking about wartime and violence and military action. So just beware. In the morning darkness of September 18th, 1993, in Mogadishu, Somalia, another SEAL and I crept over a wall and up to the top of a 6-story tower. Below us, people were waking up. Men, women, and children relieved themselves in the streets. I smelled the morning fires, fueled by dried animal dung. Dung is poop, so people are using animal poop. They're recycling it when it's dry as a way to start fires. The fires heated the little food the Somalis had. The warlord who ruled this part of the city, Mohammed Farah Adid, controlled the population by controlling the food supply. Every time I saw a starving child, I blamed Adid. Although the middle of a city may not seem the logical place for Navy commandos, SEALs are trained to fight anywhere. That's where the name comes from. Sea, air, and land. On many operations, we were in all three. We'd parachute in, complete our task on land, and make our way back on water. From the tower, we watched what looked like a large garage with no roof. It was a vehicle body shop. Surrounding it was a city of despair. Somalis trudged along with their heads and shoulders lowered. Helplessness dimmed their faces, and starvation pulled the skin tight across their bones. This better part of town had multi-level concrete buildings instead of the tin and wooden lean-to sheds that dominated most of the city and countryside. Nevertheless, the smell of human waste and death filled the air. So, give you a little bit of backstory. Anytime there is a wartime situation or like there's sort of chaos, people who want power, they fill in. It's happened everywhere on planet Earth. And people who want power are often willing to be violent. So here we have a warlord, basically a bad guy, is kind of holding this whole community hostage because he and his militia, his group, they have the guns, they have the violence, and they're controlling the food and they're controlling everything. So these people are kind of hostages. These SEALs are trying to free these people from this particularly bad dude. I played different scenarios over in my mind. One enemy popping out at one location, then another popping out at another location, and so on. I would acquire them, aim, and even do a simulated trigger pull, going through my rehearsed breathing and follow-through routine while picturing the actual engagement. Then I simulated reloading and getting back into position, looking through my scope, continuing to scan for more booger eaters, the SEAL term for bad guys. I had done this dry firing and actual firing thousands of times. Wet, dry, muddy, snowbound, from a dug-in hole in the ground, from the window of a tall building, and nearly every which way imaginable. The words drilled into our heads since SEAL training were, the more you sweat in peacetime, the less you bleed in war. This particular day, I was charged with making sure none of my Delta Force buddies sprang a leak as I covered their insertion into the garage. That was every bit as important as my not bleeding. So think about that phrase, sprang a leak. That's kind of a nicer way of saying getting shot. So think about that. If you get shot, you bleed, right? That's springing a leak. And so this guy is speaking in the terms of a soldier. So he's going to talk like a soldier. Our target for this mission was Osman Ali Atto, Warlord Adid's main financier. A financier is the money person. So the guy that they're trying to take and not kill, they're just trying to take him, is the money that is fueling the warlord who's making life miserable for all these innocent people. Otto and his boss had killed hundreds of thousands of Somalis. I felt that if we could kill Otto and Aidid, we could stop the fighting, get the food to the people quickly, and go home in one piece. But the goal of this mission was to capture Otto, not kill him. Around 0815, our asset, our informer, gave the predetermined signal that Otto was there. All right, military speak, 0815, military works on a 24-hour clock. So 0815 is 8:15 in the morning. If it was 8:15 at night, it would be 20:15 because they don't say in the military 8:30 in the morning or 8:30 at night. They go by 24 hours as a 24-hour numbered clock, right? My SEAL teammate and I launched the full package. Little Bird and Black Hawk helicopters filled the sky. Delta Force operators fast roped into the roofless garage, dropping lines from the helicopter and sliding right to the ground. Rangers fast roped around the outside of it. Little Birds flew overhead with Delta snipers to protect the assault force. So think about this. Delta Force is there, the Rangers are there, and the Navy SEALs are there. This is a very, very, very full package of our military's elite operators to try to help these people out. Otto's people scattered like rats. Enemy militia shot at the helicopters. In this environment, an enemy could appear from anywhere, dressed the same as a civilian. Even if he appeared with a gun, there was a chance he was part of a clan on our side. We had to wait until the person pointed the weapon at us. Then we would ensure the enemy ceased to exist. There was no time for makeup or second shots. Like my SEAL teammate, his nickname was Casanova, I wielded 30 gauge Win Mag sniper rifle. Through my scope, I saw a militiaman 500 yards away firing through an open window at the helos. Helos is helicopters. I made a mental note to keep my heart rate down and centered the crosshairs on him as my muscle memory took over. Stock firmly in the shoulder, cheek positioned behind the scope, I focused on the center of the crosshairs rather than the enemy and steady trigger squeezing. I felt the gratifying recoil of my rifle. The round hit him in the side of the chest. He convulsed and buckled, falling backward into the building permanently. I quickly got back into my scope and scanned my sector. Game on now. All other thoughts departed my mind. Casanova scanned his sector too. Another Adid militiaman carrying an AK-47 came out a fire escape door on the side of a building 300 yards away from me and aimed his rifle at the Delta operators assaulting the garage. From his position, I'm sure he thought he was safe from the assaulters. And he probably was. He was not safe from me. 300 yards wasn't even a challenge. I shot him through the left side and the round exited his right. He slumped down onto the fire escape landing, never knowing what hit him. His AK-47 lay silent next to him. Someone tried to reach out and retrieve the weapon. One round from my Win Mag put a stop to that. Each time I made a shot, I immediately forgot about that target and scanned for another. Chaos erupted inside and outside of the garage. People ran everywhere. Little birds and blackhawks filled the skies with deafening rotor blasts. The rotor is the. I was in my own little world, though. Nothing existed outside my scope and my mission. Let the unit guys handle their business in the garage. My business was reaching out and touching the enemy. A few minutes passed as I continued scanning. More than 800 yards away, a guy popped up with an RPG launcher on his shoulder, preparing to fire at the helicopters. If I took him out, it would be the longest killing shot of my career. If I failed, an RPG is a rocket-propelled grenade. It's one of those, like, whoosh. So I'll stop there because the next part of the story, he goes into his childhood and how he got into the Navy SEALs. But you can kind of see, like, this is an intense book. And it's very real, people. I mean, this is war, and this is like a story that most people don't tell. So it's sometimes hard to read. So I don't recommend that for you if you struggle with like violence, if it bothers you, stay away from this book. But if you are interested in the story of someone who goes through, they say that the Navy SEAL training is the hardest training there is, and he goes and tells you kind of about it. They go through something called Hell Week, and they try to break you so that you don't last, and only the toughest stay, and then they can trust them in times of war and chaos. So this is real. There's nothing in here that is not happening in the world right now, and there are bad people, and this guy, from his story, really is his perspective. It's from his perspective. We don't get the other side of the story, but he sounds like a guy who's just trying to do the right thing for people who are innocent. So anyway, really good story. Got some questions for you today, and I'll take a look at those responses from you. All right, have a good Wednesday.